Well, that's handy.
This project starts off like most others by breaking down large sheet goods into their final sizes at the table saw and miter saw. This project is made of mostly 3/4 inch white melamine and 1/8 inch white hardboard for the back panels. A set of plans can be downloaded for free on my website, diybuilds.ca, along with all my other projects. Okay, so we'll put it in the vise, put our edge banding on, and we'll make our first pass forward. Hand me the block, please. Keep it there at the end. Melt the glue, and it will go back slowly as we push the block where we just were. Okay, now flip it over, cut the ends off. Now we'll trim the edge. So we sand like this, then we flip it over. Dad's gonna chisel it. And now you can sand that edge, just like I showed you all along. Yeah. Good job, mister. Oh. So now we're going to begin assembly. You see I've got 2 of these units already made, and these are going to go together super fast. We're going to be using a method of tacking everything together with 2.5 inch me-nails, then coming back, drilling, and countersinking holes for 2-inch construction screws. Everything is just a butt joint. This is going to be super quick. Now, when it goes time to lay out the spacing for the drawer piece and the middle shelf, we're simply just going to use these pieces as spacers, so everything is perfect, no measuring involved. Let's get drilling. So next, to install these center dividers, which support each set of drawers, I've got this spacer set right here. It's the same spacing on both sides. So once I get this tacked in place with some brad nails, I'll move this over here just to ensure that everything is proper, because we don't want the drawers not fitting in the end. Anyways, more brad nails and screws. Over here at the table saw, we've got a flat tooth blade set up, and we're going to be creating a rabbet in the bottom of all of these drawer pieces. These are our short sides and our long sides. They all get the same rabbet to accept a 1/4 inch piece of hardboard as our bottom. So we'll make this in 2 passes, and we'll get to building our drawers. So you see we've got the long side inside of the short sides, and we're just going to use butt joinery. We're going to do 2-inch screw here and here, tack everything together with some 2-inch me-nails. Then we'll come back, cut the bottom with our final dimensions on the table saw, and then we'll keep it in place with a bunch of 1/2 inch crown staples, and that'll be the drawers. So now we can mount our drawers in the cabinet. And to do that, I've got this little spacer block right here, which is going to center our drawer slide. So we'll place it right here. Now we are going to line up this front edge with the front of the cabinet, as that'll make room for our drawer fronts so they sit flush. So the first thing I'm going to do is pull out this inner piece, which attaches to the drawer. And that's so we have access to this hole, as we're going to be mounting screws here, here, and here. And to do that, we just put it up here, line up the front, and then we'll use the self-centering drill bit right here to drill out these holes, install our 3 screws, do the same thing to the other side. So to mount the drawer inside the cabinet, you see I've got this 1/8 inch spacer right here. Slide that in, pull these out, and now we're going to slide the drawer in between the slides. And we'll push it back in, making sure that these don't go in. And we're going to get it as far back as we can while still revealing the front screw. And now we'll attach the front screw, pull it all the way out, and attach the back screw. And that's how you mount the drawers. We'll take the spacer out and test our drawer. So with our back piece cut to size, it's now time to install it. And to do that, I'm going to use 1/2-inch crown staples all around the perimeter, as well as this shelf and this piece right here. So I'll just mark that on the back side with a pencil to make sure we don't miss it all. Now I am going to install staples along the top first, and then use my square to make sure none of this has shifted, as it basically is a giant parallelogram right now. And this I know is square, so it's going to be pretty obvious if it is at a square. And then just force it into square and tack the rest of the staples in place. So you just saw me rip a bunch of these strips to 4.5 inches. Now over the chop saw, I'm going to cut a few of those strips up into a bunch of cross braces for our bottom base for everything to sit up on. That's going to give us our 2-inch toe kick. So I've got my stop block set here so we don't have to measure anything and just batch out a bunch of these. Then we're going to head over to the pocket hole machine and add pocket holes to one side, as the back side will just screw through the side. It's not the show side. So this is the back side of the base, and I've laid out where I'm going to attach all my stretchers. Again, I'm going to tack everything in place with brad nails, come back with 2-inch screws just through the face. And on the show side, we'll use the pocket screws so you don't see any of these holes. So before we can go ahead and remove this section of carpet, as I am going to be mounting this on the subfloor, not directly on the carpet, is we're going to remove the trim along the back and the sides. I'll use the oscillating multi-tool to score the edges, because we're going to keep the trim going out into the rest of the room. There won't be any trim on the toe kick itself, so we're just going to remove the whole back and sides. With the trim gone, we can now put the base up against the wall and in place, and we'll use it to just trace out the carpet as we cut it with this big knife. And interesting that all of the tack strip is rusted. Would not have seen that coming. So what year do we think there was water damage? Now I'll take my oscillating tool again, cut the tack strips, pry the rest of them up, clean up the floor so there's no more staples or any obstructions in our way, make sure it's level, and we'll just slide this guy into place. So I've just got these simple blocks, which I'm going to screw to the floor, and then I'm going to screw the base to these in a few key areas. And then we'll add that side. Since melamine comes in 8 foot, and this is about a 10-foot long section, I've had to make up this secondary piece, which we're going to scab on like this. But I've also had to shim over here as this part of the house drops off for some reason. And to also make up the difference, I'm going to put a little bit of construction adhesive, which is a glue that kind of hardens and fills gaps. And we're going to put a little bit of that under this area as well, just to make sure nothing's rocking.
With the base made and firmly attached in place, it's time to get these suckers sitting on top of them. Now I did go ahead and drill out spots to verify the location of all the studs, as we are going to be putting a screw through back here to attach these to the wall, as well as a few screws on the bottom to attach them to the base. Now I plugged those holes with some drywall compound, and you see on this corner right here, I had to take a planer to the entire back corner. As you know, walls and houses are not square, so we had to make a little room on both edges. But let's get them mounted. Forget what I just said, I totally lied. The first thing we need to do is attach these units to each other using some 1-inch screws. I'm going to use countersunk screws to try to hide the screws a little bit better. With the cabinets made, it's on to making the doors and drawer fronts. I'm cutting to final size these pieces of 3/4 inch MDF, as I'm going to be using paint as the finish on everything. So MDF's paintability and flatness make it a great choice. So I've got all my drawer fronts in front of me here, and I want to drill the holes for mounting our hardware. These have a 3-inch spacing, so I'm just going to take this overall dimension, divide it by 2, and then take away 1.5 inches, and then we're going to make a pencil line. Same thing in this direction, except we're not going to minus anything. We're just going to take this dimension, divide it by 2, and make another mark. We'll do that all of them, bring it to the drill press, and drill out our holes. So next we're going to get the hinges mounted on these doors, and I want to use these Euro-style hinges right here. And so you need to mark the center of where this 1 3/8 hole is going to be bored out, and then you'll come back, place it inside, and then use a self-centering bit to drill out these screws, and then attach your hinge. Now to mark this out, I've calculated with a little bit of experimenting here that we need a distance from the edge of 7/8, and I'm just going to use the edge of the combination square as kind of a guide to mark all of these the same. And now we'll drill that out on the drill press. So over here at the router table, I have a V-groove bit set up, and my fence is set to about 2.5 inches. This is going to allow us to run the long side of the doors here and create the rail and style look that we're going for, as we didn't use real wood or anything, and this is going to be painted. I thought maybe this would achieve the look we wanted without all the extra effort. Anyways, we'll run this through. We'll set up some stop blocks for the short side, and we'll see how it looks. So this actually came out really nice and was relatively easy to do. I think I'll do this a bunch more going forward, assuming the painting process goes well. But anyways, here I've got our chamfer bit set up, and we're going to put a chamfer along the outside, including the top pieces. Well, the top pieces didn't get these rail and stiles. They're only going to get the chamfer.
One, two, three, 4, 5, 6.
Yay! So it's been several months since then. I've built a lean-to on the back of my house. Go ahead and watch that video if you haven't. But now everything is fully painted, and I didn't really get footage of it, and you don't want to see that anyways. So on to the next step. We're going to get these Euro hinges mounted to our doors, and then we'll get the brackets mounted to the unit itself. And for that, I've got this special little jig here I just made up by measuring the distances I would need and the distance from the bracket itself. We'll show you how we use this in a second. Simple as just drilling a couple holes. So the measurements on this jig already include our 3/4 inch offset from the top here, as the door will land right at this line. So I'll just butt it up against this side and the top edge, take my teeny tiny drill bit, and just drill out the holes.
Now we'll just screw on the bracket. So because the door is exactly symmetrical, I can go ahead and take this jig, flip it upside down, and just do the bottom one as well. So now we can just clip on the door and make adjustments on the hinge as needed. Looking pretty good already, just some minor tweaking. Now we're going to install the handles in this part of the door. To do that, I've got this little jig. It's reversible, so we just put it on this corner, drill out our holes. To install our drawer fronts, I need to remove these handles, which I installed a long time ago because I knew I would be spending a lot of time getting these painted, and I really needed to use the drawers in the meantime. Anyways, we'll take these out, put this on, put the drawer handle back on, and we'll add a screw on either side to fully lock it in place once we've straightened it out to match all of our lines. We're also going to need to swap out for the longer screws that also come in the handle kit. So I've got the handle on snug, but I can still move this around. So let's push it in. Check our lines. It needs to go up a little bit there. So we'll take it out, lock it in place. Now I'll come back later and add a screw on either side to fully lock it in place.
The last step was to drill some holes for screws to attach the countertop down in each drawer cubby. If you're wondering, the kitchen will soon look exactly like this with the same countertops and paint scheme. With that, the project is complete. We'll see you on the next one.
Bonjour, la hot stuff.